A few months back, as you all may remember, Florida got pretty beaten up by a couple of hurricanes. My folks live down there, and while none of the damage that they sustained was life-altering or house-destroying, their homeowner's insurance kicked in and they had some water damage through the roof. They also needed a new one because of all the shingles that had come off and the debris that had punctured it. My folks looked through roofing options and determined that a metal roof would be a great option to reduce damage and maintenance on their home. Plus, it would serve as a more energy-efficient option with passive solar collection and fewer thermal losses in the summer and winter. It is more expensive, but my dad was very disciplined with his finances while I was growing up. He's in his 60s and has finally concluded that he has enough financial security for his retirement, so the roof was a good investment. It looked like a total win. Then they reviewed the HOA rules and saw that, as of 1989, metal roofs are prohibited in the neighborhood, subject to fines and mandatory removal. Reviewing the bylaw further showed that it was clearly referring to older, lower-quality tin roofs, not a proper metal one like today's market provides, which looks great and has all of those other benefits. My folks wanted to play by the rules, though, and called up the HOA to explain the situation. The HOA was friendly and said that they would be looking into that bylaw, and that my folks weren't the only ones who requested that they be allowed to have a metal roof. My parents couldn't get a roofing contractor in for a few months anyway due to high demand, so they waited a few weeks and got nothing new out of the HOA. They tried again a few weeks later. Nothing. After 2 months of this, they decided to move forward and started construction on the metal roof. Popular opinion in the neighborhood was on their side, and the roof was covered with a temporary tarp that wouldn't last forever. The new roof got installed over the course of a few days, and then we found out the HOA's true colors. The neighborhood has a nice brick sign out front that says, "Welcome TO, neighborhood name." It's very classy, but it was heavily damaged in a hurricane. The HOA was strapped for money due to other repairs and dues, and someone in charge had the idea to impose as many fines as they could on the neighborhood to pay for these repairs. Starting with my folks. They served my folks with a letter claiming that they were in violation of the HOA and demanded a $25,000 fine and the removal of the roof, which is, of course, absurd. My poor mother is very much a play-by-the-rules sort, and she was worried sick. Dad is ex-Navy and a contract negotiator. He essentially squared his shoulders and said, "Oh, you want to play, do you?" So they set about researching and making some calls. Poor Mom kept waking up at 1 a.m. unable to sleep, and I felt terrible for her as she went through this. But then they had a breakthrough. A few weeks after being served, there was essentially a formal hearing where my parents could defend themselves for an absurdly short amount of time, and the board could confront them for defying their rules. So my mom, because she's more social and has a better temper than Dad, went up to speak and let the HOA know that they couldn't do this. The board smirked and said that they sure could, citing a 40-year-old statute. Mom said, "You do, but I have state law on my side, which supersedes your statute." Turns out, there's a law in Florida stating that an HOA, or really any regulation, cannot be used to prevent an eco-friendly improvement from taking place on private property. And wouldn't you know it, the passive solar aspect of the metal roof counts as an eco-friendly improvement. It turns out the roofing contractors have dealt with similar issues before. When Dad mentioned what was going on to them, the contracting officer provided letters of accreditation and records of past cases where the court had determined that their product was eco-friendly and forced the HOA to pay all legal fees. My mom produced all of this for the HOA board, who had to admit that the legal position was ironclad. Strapped for money as they were, they couldn't afford to pay for a legal battle. The HOA head growled, "Is that all?" Mom turned up the sweetness to 11. "No. I see in the bylaws that we can vote to impeach board members at any HOA meeting and elect their replacements. I move to impeach all of you. I nominate my husband, and..." She rattled off a list of names. The board was stunned. While Dad looked into the legal side, Mom looked into the neighborhood sentiment. Popular opinion was on their side, and the hearing was public for the community. Mom convinced a majority of the homeowners to attend and remove the board for their poor policy. With that, my parents are now on the new board, and Dad is putting his contract negotiation skills and his own craftsmanship to work repairing the front entrance. And metal roofs are now allowed by the new HOA.